We're back in the black hole of real estate, and there's a subject that can be a little sensitive for a lot of people, but it's worth going over today if it helps even just a couple of people kind of navigate the process of inheriting a home and all that goes along with that. This is your host, Ron Wysakarski, for the black hole of real estate, and every day we hear where someone passes a home on to a family member or someone that's close to them, as they pass on. Super sensitive subject, and if you're going through it right now, you have my heart and my compassion for what you're going through or about to go through. The reality of it is that as someone passes, they typically leave some set of instructions, if you will, on how to handle the transfer of the house and perhaps other possessions and belongings and things like that. Most often there is a will, and it will explain what the deceased wishes are for things such as the house, and if they have stocks, bonds, cash, possessions, things like that. There is what you call a probate process, where you're going to have to go, and a lawyer handles it, not me. But they're going to go through the process of making sure that any of the items that are being passed along go to the proper heirs. And they just follow that set of instructions. And then, of course, you've got to settle out closing out bank accounts and insurance accounts. And maybe there's upkeep at the home and repairs. And, we can just go through a whole litany of things that you're going to have to go through while you're also grieving because you've lost a loved one. So if you're planning to give a home to your family or to an individual, some things that I would recommend that you give some consideration to doing would be to organize your finances in such a way that it's easily decipherable. So if you've got 3 bank accounts at 3 different banks, having a bank statement available, perhaps in a file or something that you lock away in your safe. Any things like insurance policies for the house. Maybe you've got a life insurance policy. Maybe there's investments that you have. Who's your tax provider? Because they'll probably have to do your final taxes. If you're receiving Social Security, that will have to be stopped. And if it crosses over, they may actually have to write a check back if they, depending on when you pass. It's kind of crazy, but you may have to give some money back. You could also look at all the different vendors. If you have somebody cut your lawn or cleans your pool or does your air conditioner repair work, your roof, your electrical, your plumbing, things like that. If you have pets, where do they go? And do you have the records for the pets? If you keep going on this list, and I've just given you the tip of the iceberg over here, but it can be super overwhelming for the person that you have in charge of this. So, when you go through the will and the probate, there typically is an heir, perhaps more than one heir, but one person would be the executor. So during your lifetime, if there's someone that can sign documents on your behalf, that would be your power of attorney. As you pass, then the decisions are made by the executor. There's typically an attorney involved, and that executor, that attorney, they're the ones going to go over how things are going to play out and be distributed. And executor, facilitator, they'll make some tough decisions. So if the person is decisive, great. If they're a little indecisive, that will take a little bit more work on a part of the attorneys. And then if there's any errors in distribution of assets, that all has to follow, what it says in the will. If there's some gray areas or if things are sold, that would go perhaps into the probate account, and the attorney will monitor that and eventually close it all out. Now, the house itself, and this is where you can run into some trouble. So if you're the one receiving the house and there's possessions in there, there's certainly some emotional attachment to a couch, a chair, bedroom sets and furniture. Maybe they've got collections of things. There could be artwork. There could be memorabilia. Maybe they saved old postcards and birthday cards. Depending on the person who was giving their home and all those worldly possessions to. There could be, anything from days, weeks, months, years, to go through the items and then to be able to either donate them or sell them or keep them. And each individual decision could be a little bit tough for a lot of people. So as you're thinking of how nice it would be for you to give a home to somebody, you're also passing along some duties and responsibilities. And I'm not here to referee this for anybody. But what I might say is, if you know that the possessions that you have are things that maybe your heirs are not going to want, I'm not saying throw them away or get rid of them, but is there a charity? Is there a group that could benefit from those items? Or is there people that also collect those things? Maybe that could be a way to help ease the, and I'll use the word carefully, but burden of trying to empty the home. It's pretty rare that someone's going to be able to take all those possessions and fit them in their home, because we all have stuff, and that can really take a toll. So over time, you're trying to live your life while also being an executor or participating in these things. And what starts out as a good thing, it's going to be a good thing, but there's some anxiety, there's some pain along the way, there's some suffering along with that, depending on how long it takes. And some of these go quickly, and maybe there's minimal possessions, or it's nothing's too emotional with it. Maybe it's a second home or a condo or something like that, where maybe you sell the condo and all the possessions and take the personal effects out, which might not be too many. That might be relatively easy compared to a personal residence where they've lived 40, 50 years, and every room is full of all kinds of memories, and the basement is full of things they couldn't part with. And at some point, someone's got to, take care of all of that. So it could create some stress points that maybe weren't imagined up front, but in reality, they're there. So if you're the one inheriting the house, these are things that you're going to have to deal with in one way, shape, or form or another. There's the financial side, there's the possession side, and there's the emotional side too. Sometimes you get so caught up in the distribution or potential distribution of cash and assets that you simply don't have enough time to grieve. And for many people, selling the home really represents not just a financial windfall, if you will, or a body of work where you will have to complete certain tasks. Because sometimes the estate has very little money in it, but there's a lot of work to be done. At the end of the day, when the job is completed on the probate and closing out the estate, the person, the executor, by the way, the executor isn't always the person who inherits everything, so that creates an additional layer that someone's doing all the work and somebody's getting the financial benefit, if you will. But for many people, over time, the most important thing shifts from possessions or gifts or money to closure. And as the possessions are finally divided, passed along, dissolved, that is the time where closure takes place, and the healing process really can take that next step too. So if you're passing along a home, I'd rather have this conversation honestly right now, because a lot of people are going through this, and it can be super difficult. And while you're going through it, you'll probably run into some other people going through the same type of thing. And I'd also tell you that you're going through this type of pain and this type of work, and sometimes you want to share with others, and what you'll find is, they care to a level that they care, but they're not going through it. And this just in, they very well could have stuff going on too. So they may be experiencing a different kind of grief or a different kind of anxiety or a different subset of stuff going on right now. And I think these days, more so than ever, I'm noticing that everybody's got stuff going on. And everybody cares, but not everybody's going to stop and listen for a couple of hours for that. So it can be a lonely thing, even amongst people, to go through this. And I want to share that with you today, that if you're going through an inheritance, or you're in the process of willing your home or your car or your jewelry or some possessions to other people, wonderful. Just know that there's a process on the other side of it, and if you can take that into account, it might make it a little bit easier for those that come after you. And that's what I want to share. So, a super sensitive issue for a lot of people, but I thought it was timely to bring it up because so many people are going through it, and you never know what somebody's going through until you know what they're going through. If you're going through the probate process or you're thinking of willing a property to a family member, drop me a line if you would like a consultation. My experience with it, because I do a lot of this work, and I also do it personally. So that's what I got for you today. I hope this helped out some of you over here, and if you haven't crossed upon this yet, hey, I hope that you don't have to go through this, because for many people it's one of the tougher things to go through. This is your host, Ron Wysakarski, for the Black Hole of Real Estate.